We haven't seen Jeremy Renner's Clint Barton since 2016's Captain America Civil War, so it's exciting that he'll be making his Marvel Cinematic Universe return in 2019's Avengers Endgame. That's a big movie for any character to be a part of, given the cosmic nature of the events that will undoubtedly unfold in it. But for a guy with no superpowers like Barton, it might seem a bit above his pay grade and beyond his ability to play a major role in. However, there's a theory suggesting he's actually going to be a big player in Avengers Endgame, and that he might even end up being the MVP in the fight against Thanos. In this video, we'll take you through some convincing evidence that shows that might be the case. Okay, let's start off with something glaringly obvious. The fact that Clint Barton was totally absent from Avengers Infinity War. All he got was a brief mention when Natasha Romanoff told Bruce Banner that he was on house arrest, spending time with his family after the whole Sokovia Accord situation that occurred in Captain America Civil War. The fact that he was notably missing from Infinity War would immediately suggest that he's being set up for something big in its sequel. That's just common sense to anyone who knows how these things work. In fact, the treatment of Jeremy Renner's character in general in the MCU has been rather poor, especially considering how prominent and iconic he is in the comic books. And that can't go on for much longer. His first appearance in 2011's Thor was a mere cameo, and that was fair enough, but it was how he was treated in 2012's The Avengers that really ticked fans off. Barton spent most of the movie under the influence of Loki's mind control, which rendered him relatively useless for the most part, as far as the plight of the titular heroes was concerned. Granted, in 2015's Avengers Age of Ultron and the aforementioned Captain America Civil War, his role was somewhat more prominent, and he did have some moments worth mentioning, such as when he incapacitated Wanda Maximoff with a taser arrow, and when he distracted Tony Stark so that Maximoff could drop a load of cars on him. But if the truth be told, he was a long way from being the key player in either story. It really is about time his importance to the good fight in the MCU was made more clear, and that definitely looks like being the case in the coming months, if rumors, theories, and visible evidence are to be believed. It's been stated by Marvel Studios representatives on more than one occasion that Barton's time will come to shine in the MCU. And having played nothing more than a bit part in the franchise so far, it's really only fair if that's the case. And if Avengers Endgame is his time to shine, all will be forgiven for the studio not utilizing him to his full potential to date in the MCU. Moreover, the very fact that the trailer for Avengers Endgame revealed Barton's return would suggest he's going to be important in the movie. Why bother showing him otherwise? Scott Lang was the other major absentee in Infinity War, and the reveal of his return in the Endgame trailer was the big zinger. So it's probably fair to say both of those characters will be important in the fourth Avengers offering, given their similar circumstances. It's also evident Barton will be undergoing a change of persona in Avengers Endgame. Having previously used the Hawkeye moniker in the MCU since his first appearance in Thor, and having used a bow and arrows as his weapons of choice so far, he'll now be going by the name Ronin and wielding a sword of some kind. In the comic books, Ronin is a name used by a number of superheroes, including Barton, Maya Lopez, who is otherwise known as Echo, Alexei Shostakov, who is otherwise known as Red Guardian, and Eric Brooks, who is otherwise known as Blade. Barton took on the same name when he was resurrected after the House of M story arc. So, while the circumstances are certainly different in the MCU, they are similarly following on from a tragic event that took place on a larger scale. The name Ronin refers to the Japanese term for a masterless samurai, or a lone warrior, which was used during the feudal period of Japan between 1185 and 1868. It's a huge change, which very much makes Barton a focal point in Avengers Endgame. People will be extremely eager to see just how much he's transformed as a character, and it would be extremely underwhelming if Marvel Studios went to the trouble of completely changing him only for him to play a small part in the movie in which the change takes place. Something that'll make Barton particularly dangerous and therefore a threat to any potential opponent he comes up against, including Thanos, is the reason he's undergone such a drastic change in persona. It's believed he's taken on the Ronin moniker as a result of the deaths of his wife and kids, which will have occurred when the Mad Titan snapped his fingers and erased half of all life in the universe in Avengers Infinity War. The Endgame trailer had Steve Rogers saying, "We lost. All of us. We lost friends, we lost family, we lost a part of ourselves." His quote seems to fit with the idea that those closest to Barton have fallen victim to the prune-chinned villain's devastating cosmic call. Barton will be angry, beyond angry in fact, and will be out for blood. Thanos' blood, should he get the opportunity, and that undoubtedly means he'll be willing to do whatever it takes to either get his revenge on the purple-skinned despot or help to undo the effects of the decimation. He has absolutely nothing and nobody to lose. Literally, they're all gone. Everything he did as an Avenger and as an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. was for his family. Without them, his life is barely worth living, so taking whatever risks are necessary to make things better could certainly be on the cards for the character. There's also reason to believe Barton gets recruited quite late in Avengers Endgame, as a sort of trump card. In the scene in which he appears in the trailer, his longtime friend and fellow Avenger Natasha Romanoff appears to have found him in Japan. And given her hair appears to be darker and longer than it was in other clips, there's a theory that a lot of time has passed since the fight back against Thanos officially got underway. If indeed that's the case, Barton's return could be a pivotal moment in the movie, and indeed in the MCU's history, and one that sways the tide in the surviving heroes' favor and provides them all with a much-needed morale boost in the fight back against the Mad Titan. It might just be the pickup and incentive they need to go all out and ultimately win the war. Another reason for this theory is due to something that occurred in Avengers Age of Ultron. Marvel Studios is known for foreshadowing future events in their movies, or at least subtly hinting towards them. And something Barton said during the Battle of Sokovia has led some people to believe he could be very important going forward in the MCU. He played down his own worth, saying, "This city is flying. We're fighting an army of robots and I have a bow and arrow." None of this makes sense, which suggested he knew his abilities were comparatively less useful than the likes of Thor, the Hulk, and Scarlet Witch, which could in turn be seen as a sort of reverse psychology form of foreshadowing, and end up with him being the most useful character when it matters most, in a battle for the fate of the entire universe. Speaking of his abilities, another reason for this theory is due to the fact they're particularly suited to taking opponents by surprise. Wouldn't it be cool if we were reintroduced to Clint Barton in this new Ronin guise, but in order to save the day, he went back to his roots, took out his trusty bow and arrow, and defeated Thanos using his classic weapons? Maybe it could be used to knock the Infinity Gauntlet off of Thanos' hand, or to knock the Infinity Stones out of the gauntlet, or simply to cause an explosion with a trick arrow that distracts the Mad Titan long enough for another MCU hero to finish him off. There is, however, a more indirect way in which Barton could be extremely important in Avengers Endgame. Everyone knows Brie Larson's Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, will be appearing in the movie following her first MCU appearance in her solo movie a few months earlier. But Nick Fury, who sent her an SOS message in the post-credits scene of Avengers Infinity War, was probably her only remaining connection to the heroes who will be going up against Thanos in the 2019 movie. Apart from Barton, that is. Should Larson head to Earth in order to assist in the fight back against the Mad Titan, she might need some convincing to do so, and that convincing could come courtesy of another familiar face. Danvers was obviously associated with the S.H.I.E.L.D. before she left Earth to fight alongside the Kree, and given that Barton was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent before he became an Avenger, the two might have worked together in the 90s. Should Barton convince Danvers the situation is grave and she's needed to help undo it, that would make his part in Avengers Endgame just as important as if he was to land the killing blow on Thanos, or head back in time to prevent the Mad Titan from collecting the Infinity Stones himself. Of course, the manner in which Barton is important in Avengers Endgame could also be heartbreaking. The tone was definitely set in Infinity War after all. If defeating Thanos and undoing what he did in Infinity War requires a sacrifice, perhaps, for example, if the MCU's heroes need to sacrifice something that they love to utilize the abilities of the Soul Stone, Barton might put himself forward to be that sacrifice. We've already touched heavily upon the fact he's lost his wife and kids. He might feel he has nothing left to live for in the current timeline, and if everything goes well, he'd find himself alive again in the past, with his wife and children also alive, with no memory of ever having sacrificed himself to make it happen. Oh man, this all sounds very, very complicated, doesn't it? All things considered, this would be a great way for Clint Barton, and indeed Jeremy Renner, to re-emerge in the MCU, following his absence in Avengers Infinity War. But we'd definitely prefer it if he didn't die permanently as a result of it. Barton deserves a happy ending with his family, although most fans would like to see him given his own movie before that as well, neither of which could happen if he was killed off saving the universe in Avengers Endgame. How cool would it be to see a Hawkeye and Black Widow movie depicting what happened in Budapest with Natasha Romanoff, for example? Fans have been wanting to see that depicted on screen since it was briefly referenced back in the first Avengers movie. Of course, we also have to be prepared for the very real possibility that Barton's role might be a lot smaller than we're all imagining right now. If that happens, particularly if he's killed off early in Avengers Endgame, everyone at Marvel Studios will wish they had been erased from existence in the Decimation, when the inevitable fan backlash begins. Heck, given what we know Marvel Studios is capable of, and we're talking about how we know they like to deceive fans, such as the moment in the Avengers Infinity War trailer showed the Hulk fighting in the Battle of Wakanda, Barton might not even be in Endgame. at all, in spite of what the trailer shows. Just imagine that for a second. All things considered, we can't wait to see what Avengers Endgame, and indeed the future of the MCU in general, has in store for Jeremy Renner's Clint Barton. He's a great character, played by a fantastic actor who we'd love to see more of in the franchise. Oh god, he's so going to die, isn't he? It was fun while it lasted, Clint. Hope you enjoy shooting those arrows in that great big target range in the sky. So, what did you think of this video? Will Clint Barton be the most valuable player in the fight back against Thanos in Avengers Endgame? Do you want to see more of the character in general in the MCU? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to ScreenRant for more great videos just like this one. Bye for now.